everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. Stat Guy and I are here holding it down. Pags is down in New Orleans. How's it going, man?
It's going. It's getting cold, but we're making it. We're trying to survive long enough with a voice.
No, we actually got some snow here, so that's what I was doing before this, was playing with my dog in the snow. So it's like, oh, I have to go in and do work. Damn it.
Dog's probably like, leave me out here. I can enjoy this.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, she's a shepherd, so she's enjoying the snow for sure. Absolutely. So we got some more basketball action. We got the Suns wanting to dump KD, which we talked about a little bit yesterday, but it sounds like there's a real chance that he ends up back with the Warriors, which is hilarious.
I mean, realistically, I know Durant kind of, after he won his titles with the Warriors, he kind of got on that mindset that he wanted to try to win on his own and necessarily kind of create his own team and try to win that way. But when you just look at the fit that Kevin Durant had when he was in Golden State, he never should have left. I mean, the injury that he sustained towards the end of his tenure there, he was lucky to even become the player that he once was prior to that injury. But just the fit that he had in that team, the fit that he had with Stephen Curry, and then obviously with Klay Thompson no longer in Golden State and in Dallas, Durant never should have left Golden State in the first place. That's where he should have stayed after he had the success he had.
Yeah, I mean, they would have won more had he stayed.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, no, I'm with you. It was more of he didn't like the legacy that he was getting when it was with Steph, because they're like, oh yeah, okay, you joined an all-time winning team. So yeah, of course you got a ring. So, and I mean, one thing we know about KD is he gets in his feelings easily. Right. So, I mean, I would say that there was outside pressure more than anything about that. Right. Like, he was hearing the noise and he's like, okay, I have to get out of here to try and stop this. How's it going, Chris? And I would say his reactionary mentality is really what had him move. Now, obviously, on paper, he should have won something with the Nets, right? Like, that team on paper looked great. They played 12 games together, but on paper, it looked like they should absolutely dominate the league. So, I mean, not that would have helped his legacy either, if you think about it. It's like, oh, okay, you built a super team, right? Because had they won, they'd have been like, everyone would have looked at them winning as, yeah, I mean, of course. And then them losing is like, you guys are terrible. So for him to go back to the Warriors, obviously it would make a ton of sense. His legacy is spent. I mean, at this point anyway, he doesn't have enough years left in his career to do anything spectacular now anyway. So at this point, I think he would be open to that, just because if he could add a ring, why wouldn't you?
And yeah, I mean, like you said, at this point, like, his legacy is not going to change one way or another. Like, people are still going to view his legacy what it is, but he's still going to go down as one of the top 5 scorers in NBA history. He's still going to go down. He's still going to go down as, you can make the case that he'll go down as a top 10 player all time in NBA history, just given his longevity and the pace that he's been able to score at the pace that he's been able to score for his career.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd be top 10, but I mean, he'd probably be. He'd be top 20. He'd be top 20.
Like that alone. I mean, you look at how many players have played this game. You look at how many players have won it kind of at the way he has.
Sure.
He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, his legacy is what it is. He is a Hall of Fame player. He's going to be a top 5 scorer in NBA history, and he's, like you said, a top 20 player that's ever played this game. Like, nothing is going to take away from that legacy, apart from maybe being a crybaby and apart from just getting in his feelings too easy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, those couple of things might delay his entry into the Hall of Fame.
I don't think it will. I mean, even if he doesn't go back to Golden State, and we'll just say he plays, what is he now, 35, 36? We'll just say he plays another 5 years to get to 40. and he continues to score at the pace that he's scored at, he's going to be top 2 all time in scoring rate with LeBron. That
Oh no. I mean, yes, longevity will help the scoring record, no question. No, it's funny. The only reason I say the getting in your feelings and picking fights with media and stuff like that is they're the ones that get you in, right? And when you are in your feelings and get butthurt about everything, that hurts your ability to get in, right? I mean, we see guys in every Hall of Fame that struggled to get in, that the numbers say you're there, right? I mean, Tio wasn't a first ballot. Tell me where in his numbers say he's not a first ballot, right? It was because of all the other stuff.
well,
And
and
so for
because
KD, because he has issues with the media repeatedly, there is a good chance that there's some voters that'll hold him out that first year just to, rib him a little bit. Just be like, oh, okay, what do you think of this?
yeah, the other thing that I heard, the other thing that I think hurt To a little bit too is not having a ring. If he would have gotten a ring
Sure,
somewhere, I think
sure.
regardless of what he did to the media, I think that gets him in right away. And I think that's kind of why I don't see Durant being left off his first ballots, because he has the multiple rings. He has those rings, which are just like, and the NBA. I don't think the NBA is as petty as the NFL too.
No, because I mean, you see it in baseball too. I mean, and baseball lets like people that don't deserve to be in.
That's because see, that's the thing I hate about the Baseball Hall of Fame now. But when you look at the numbers that the players are putting up now, and you look at the numbers that were getting put up in the 70s and 80s, you might have one or two, maybe three players that are playing in today's game that are going to reach 500 home runs, with maybe one player having a shot at 600.
Sure.
You're not going to have those type of players anymore. So the bar that the Hall of Fame used to be set at, with these 500 homers, 3,000 hits, things like that, that bar has had to be lowered so much more the last 10 years because of the way the game is played. You're
Well,
not going to have many people getting 3,000 hits anymore.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, but that's always been true.
Yeah.
Like because these aren't stat based award, entry. The goalpost is always moving.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't say that no ring keeps you out, because you have guys like Dan Marino and stuff that get in, right?
Yep.
And then you have guys like Sheffield not getting in the MLB, who has all kinds of awards and a ring, and he missed it every year he was eligible. Like,
Yep.
they'll have to go back with the secondary committee to get him in, if they let him in. So there is some very real pettiness in all of them. And if the media just doesn't like you, they can hold you out. Now, I don't think they hold Durant out. Like, I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But do I see a scenario where he maybe misses first ballot? Absolutely.
I could see a scenario too, kind of how you were saying that too, where he might not get as many votes as you would think.
Yeah.
And he just might have some voters kind of be like, oh, I'm not going to vote for him, but I still think he would get enough to get in right away. It just might not be as much of a landslide as you would think.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be a landslide, again, because he actively kind of picks at the media,
Yeah.
right? Like, as soon as somebody says anything bad, he's chirping back with burner accounts and just craziness, right? So those types of things could make it not only where it's not a first ballot, but yeah, like you said, it won't be a landslide. Now, he wouldn't get past his second ballot, but I could see some voters just messing with him. They're like, oh, you know what? One last time, let's needle him a little bit.
Or just hold like how I think you can. I don't know how many years you can be on the ballot, but a couple of voters just be like, we're just gonna keep saying no until he gets to that final year of the ballot, and then we'll just say yes, just to screw with him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll go that far. I mean, that'd be kind of funny, but I don't think it would go that far. But I could see him missing the first year. I could absolutely see enough voters, especially because they know who each other are, right? Like, they
Exactly, yeah.
could make that phone call, be like, hey, you know what'd be funny? You want
You know what we should do? We should do this to get back at him for all the crap he did to us.
Let's get him one last time. No, I could absolutely see the voters do that. Now, should they? No, of course. But could it happen? Absolutely. Would it be hilarious? Also, yes. So yeah, I don't know, but him going to the Warriors does make some sense. Obviously, Steph needs some help. That team is not good as it's currently constructed, and KD would add an element to it for sure.
Yeah, and when he was there, that was the first time in his career, and realistically, the only time in his career where he wasn't the guy. Like Curry was the guy when he was there, but then
Yep.
Durant was kind of like your Curry was your 1A, Durant was your 1B, and then Klay Thompson was technically your 3, but realistically your 2. But you kind of started to see like how good of a player Durant was when he was with Golden State because he was without the ball a lot more. He was moving around a lot more and starting to create his shot a little bit less because when he was with Oklahoma City, he always had the ball in his hands. He was always trying to create his shot. In
Yep.
Golden State, it was just constant movement, and you just really saw how good of a shooter he actually is for a guy his size.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem with OKC is all those guys were young and they were all very ball centric players.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
they didn't complement each other particularly well anyway, because
Yeah.
Harden needs the ball. KD obviously needs the ball. Westbrook needs the ball. So there's only one ball. Like that, that scenario doesn't work out. When he went to the Warriors, Steph was your floor general.
Yep.
Right? Like he ran the show. And, like I've said about KD and Anthony Davis, Kyrie, like all those guys need someone else to be the guy. Do they have the skill set to be the guy? Of course. Do they have the mentality to it? Not that we've seen. And so if KD can get back to a spot where he can just play his game, but he doesn't have to do all the other pieces, sure. Yeah, he could go right back to being one of the best players in the league. I could see that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's why I laughed at the Kyrie AD Mavericks action. It's like, great, you got two guys that they have to battle to who's going to be the guy, and neither one of them want to be the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out all that stuff too in like, 30 hours about? 28, yep. 29 hours, something like that. But yeah, like the Kyrie AD fit just is kind of like the Durant fit in Phoenix, the Durant fit in Brooklyn, where you put the two together. It's like, oh, this would really work well if it works. But then you look back at it, it's just like neither one of them is one of those guys that wants to be the leader. They just kind of want to be there. So if you don't have a leader and you got rid of your leader in Doncic, you kind of just really made your team worse instead of better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. like Kevin Durant going to the Suns, he would have still needed Chris Paul there. Because then you have that floor general, like that would have been the round. And honestly, had Chris Paul still been there, maybe he stays healthy in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Because then he doesn't have to play hero ball as soon as the postseason starts.
Right.
But granted, he was part of that trade, so obviously that was never going to happen. But so anyway, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. A lot of interesting moves across the NBA, trying to make the NBA interesting, I guess. Meh.
No.
Admittedly, I'll care more when they bring my Sonics back, but right. I still have this like, screw you guys element about the NBA.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
That's right. Screw you guys, I'm going home. So there is that. And I mean, we might as well hit this. So the Ref Association is upset for sure about, all the speculation about the refs being in on it. Roger Goodell also, had a press conference where he's just like, you guys are ridiculous thinking that every ref on every crew is trying to help one team and somehow are also able to keep it to themselves. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest element that people miss is people can't keep their mouth shut for nothing. Right. Like people can't keep a secret to save their lives. That's why half of these criminals get caught because they can't shut up. So you mean to tell me that How many refs are there? Like 100 and something?
Well, there's what? There's 16 games a week. Each crew has what, 8?
Yeah, 8, and then I think there's an alternate that is
Yeah, so
available
we
for
got
each. And
140 something in.
so I mean, there's got to be there's got to be what 150 refs, at least, maybe 170 refs. I don't know. I don't know the exact number. If somebody's watching that does, go ahead and drop it. But you mean to tell me out of all of that, plus a an NFL front office that has to have people involved also, right?
There are 121 officials.
Okay, 121. All right. So you mean to tell me that all 121 of officials, right? And then, Goodell, and then whoever else would potentially need to be involved, right? Because other people would have to be. Um, you mean to tell me that all of those are the best secret keepers ever for years on end, right? Because this isn't like new. They're talking about this over the course of a few years now, right? So, I mean, it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous when you think about it on that scope that something wouldn't have come out. Like one of the guys quits and becomes a whistleblower or some kind of craziness, right?
Right.
So I don't know. The odds are low. Now the problem is they have missed calls that feed into this narrative. So that is, the tinfoil hats do have some grounds to stand on, but it's dumb. Like, it's dumb. It was funny though, because the opening press conference for Kelsey, right? They asked him, if you could ask the media something, one thing, what would it be? And he's like, why are you guys leaning into this ref thing? Alluding to the fans and the guys on social media and that makes sense, right? Because they just come up with wild ideas, especially during times where football isn't being played, right? I mean, we just had the Pro Bowl. There's not a lot going on. So, I mean, people are going to really be spinning up stories about whatever. But his thing was, why are you in the actual media spinning this up? And he's not wrong. So
if anything, stuff like that, I feel more so motivates the Chiefs.
Sure.
And you don't want to motivate a team that's already going for a three-peat, because then I don't think it's going to happen. But if they get motivated to a point, they could just go into a Super Bowl and just completely steamroll and cakewalk a team by like 25 points and be like, do we need the refs to help us win this game? No, we just kicked the crap out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if they were to do that, then the discussion ends.
Well, depending, because you could be like, depending, because then you could still have a situation where like maybe there was a questionable pass interference call that led to one touchdown, or maybe there was like another penalty that took a touchdown away from Philly that resulted in the Chiefs getting another touchdown. People are like, well, if you take those 2 plays away, then it's only a 10-point
No.
game.
I mean, yeah. So like, if there are penalty aided scores, stuff like that, sure. But if they just legitimately go in and like beat them down, that's where that discussion ends. Because then it would be exactly that. They're just like, well, it was the number one defense. They had a top 3 running game, I mean, the only really glaring hole of the Eagles defense is the secondary. I mean, you can complete passes on that secondary, but outside of that, it's a good team. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. People would still be like, well, they would have never got there if they didn't get help against the Bills or whatever. So, I mean, obviously some of that still happens, but if it's a close game and then there's a penalty that helps them win, it becomes a very interesting offseason.
Yeah.
I think the NFL actually ends up changing some rules if that's how it goes down.
Yeah, and somebody actually did make a funny point about that too, how everyone is saying that like the rules have benefited the Chiefs. But then you kind of look back at the playoffs the last couple years. When the Chiefs lost to the Patriots in overtime in the playoffs, the Chiefs wanted the overtime rule changed. It never got changed. When the Bills lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs in
And
overtime,
it changed.
they changed. A couple of years later, the Bills had something else happen to them where they wanted the rule changed.
Yep.
And they changed it. So if the rules really were benefiting the Chiefs, it'd be when the Chiefs wanted things to get changed that they get changed. But they're not the ones that are actually getting things changed. It's the other teams that are bringing it to the table, and then it gets changed.
Yeah. I mean, they do want to make sure that the Bills stay relevant also. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. And having, I don't know, I always kind of liked the sudden death overtime instead of the everybody gets a turn. Because, I mean, realistically, say you both score, then it's sudden death anyway. So, I mean,
I like everybody. I don't like the way college does it because I hate the ball starting at like the 15 or 20 yard line wherever they start. I think that's just stupid.
Yeah.
But I am a fan of both teams getting the ball because then it becomes a question of if the first team gets a touchdown and that second team gets a touchdown, does that second team go for two and try to win it there? Or do they kick the extra point and then go into sudden death? Because knowing how some of the teams play, like Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore, chances are if Kansas City gives up that first score and then they go down and score, they're going for two. They're not going to play around.
I think in that scenario, you go for two every time.
Yeah.
Because you just showed a drive ago that you couldn't stop them. Like if they went down and scored and then you go down and score, of course you go for two because you just saw on the last drive, you had nothing for them. And all they have to do is get to basically midfield anymore, right?
Yep.
I mean, the kickers are amazing now. So do you really think that you're going to keep them from gaining 30 yards? Yeah, probably not. So,
Nope.
I mean, if you're that second score, you are going for two 100% of the time. At least I would. I mean, so, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. So there are elements to it. Like, I do like that if you kick the field goal, the other team gets the shot, right? But I think if you score a touchdown, right, your defense didn't hold it all.
I guess the big reason why I'm in favor of both teams touching the ball is more so if the opening kick in overtime is run back for a touchdown. Then it's like neither offense really had a chance to do anything. It just ended up being either a bad kick that was returned for a touchdown or just bad special teams coverage.
Or an elite special teams play.
Yeah. And like that like I understand, like, yes, it's part of the game, special teams, but when you had like the Buffalo Kansas City game a couple years ago where the last 2 minutes of that game was just constant, like scoring. I kind of wish that Buffalo would have had a chance to touch the ball. But when that game goes into overtime, if Kansas City returns that overtime kick for a touchdown or Buffalo returns that overtime kick for a touchdown, that's kind of where I want that rule to happen because it's just like, crap, now we can't even really see overtime to see what both these teams would have brought to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that scenario, like if it's headed to overtime, I just ordered my beer. I don't want the game to end immediately. Sure, I'm with you there. Man. So one thing, ahead of this game that is kind of ridiculous is so now they're going to remove the end racism messages from the end zone ahead of Trump attending the Super Bowl, whether it is in relation to him or not. Weird timing to take your messages off the field, right? Like they've been there for years. They've been there all of this season. And then to have that one be the message, they're like, oh yeah, we're just going to drop this ahead of the Super Bowl. Like, talk about getting some negative press.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like a walk-off too, Steve-O. Yeah, I mean, it's that's one of those, like, what are you doing? Like, there's no upside to doing that ahead of the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Like, if you were to drop it for next season, you're like, hey, you know what? It's just costing too much to do this or whatever, right? It's so many man hours per field every week, whatever. You could even get people to buy into that and be like, hey, you know what? Sure, I get it. But you have messages all year. And then end racism is already on the field and you're going to paint over it.
Right.
That is wild.
Exactly.
That's the, that's a bold tactic there, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Like, I feel like that is not a great way to go. But here we are. Man. Let's see what else we got in the news today.
Looks like it's going to be full go Alex Bregman watch the next couple days.
Yeah.
Because the Astros basically publicly admitted yesterday that they lost Bregman. So they're no longer pursuing him.
Okay.
Looks like the Red Sox are more open to trying to trade for Nolan Arenado as opposed to going after Bregman. Bregman has pretty much said he does not want to play in Canada, which takes the Toronto Blue Jays offer off the table, even though they have the best offer for him right now. And it looks like right now it's either going to be the Detroit Tigers or the Chicago Cubs getting him because apparently their offer got leaked last night. And management is not happy on how their offer got leaked because they were trying to keep it to themselves because nobody even knew they offered him a contract. But their offer got leaked last night, so now it looks like it's going to be between the Tigers and the Cubs that get Bregman.
I mean, you'd have to think it'd be the Cubbies at that point.
Tigers got a better offer. Cubbies offered 4 at 120 with several opt-outs, and then there is a weird clause that they added to it in case there is a lockout after the 2026 season where they can have him opt out heading into the 2027 offseason. But then once baseball resumes, he can opt back in with a different kind of extension. Which basically means he would play for 2 years. If it looks like baseball is not going to get played in 2027, he opts out. And then once baseball figures their crap out, then he can opt back into the initial deal with some sort of extension-based extension tied into it.
Oh, is 2027 the Players Association?
Well, end of 2026. So the December 1st, 2026 is when the CBA expires and those new CBA talks begins, which they're not going to agree on shit. It's not going to look
they never do.
Yeah. Well, no, like the lawyers of Rob Manfred, the financial experts in Major League Baseball, said, like, if you thought the last negotiation period was ugly, where they ended up missing the first 3 weeks of the season and having to make up kind of all those games on the fly, they basically said, like, the next negotiations that take place are going to be about as ugly as they can possibly be.
Oh, so it's going to be like when we missed most of a season.
No, they're already bracing. They've already been bracing ownership groups and a lot of fans or whatever that not only will there be no baseball in 2027, there's a shot that it may not start on time in 2028. Like they're already bracing fans that baseball is about to enter a very dead period, which is not good.
I got you. We got Philly Sports Guy in the house, live from New Orleans.
Guys?
What's
up, guys? We're here on Radio Row. It's a pretty awesome experience. It's I've been to a couple of drafts and did this a few times, but never here at Super Bowl. This is like awesome.
Hey, is Bill Michaels there?
I haven't seen Bill Michaels. I have said hello to Bert Kreischer. We had where I was sitting. Greg Olson was doing something over here. They have Fox Radio over here. Sorry. So, but they got kind of going on up over here. I'm just trying to give you guys like a full idea on everything that's kind of happening here. You got players walking around.
Very cool.
Yeah, if you see Bill Michaels, go say hi to Bill Michaels.
All right. Uh, I will try to find him. I'm sure he's here somewhere.
He usually goes to the Super Bowl. He's out of Milwaukee, so
I got you. I will try my best. But yeah, like I said, it's so cool because you can kind of just come out here and geek out. Like I'm like, it's my first time here on Radio Row, so it's like
does
really
each
an
table
awesome
have it? Does
experience.
each table have a number on it, Pigs?
Well, they kind of have. I mean, it's a lot of podcasts.
Because
They
he's
said this
got a
year
number.
that the media. What's the number?
He's got number 18 on the corner of his table for the Bill Michaels show.
Excuse me, one second. So,
Hello, sir.
hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
You know what?
In a program?
I am right this very second. Give me. So, listen, guys, it's working. So, but I wanted to just kind of give you a quick idea. And tomorrow I'll actually spend a little bit more time. I'll be here and I'll actually spend like 20 minutes to a half hour here on a table. We can actually get to talk a little bit and I'll tell you what's going on and what's happening.
Awesome. Right on, man. Well, have fun.
All right, guys. I'm going to try my best. Go Birds.
Take it easy, brother.
Take care.
Right on. So I feel like you're the next one to have to go do something and pop in for 10 minutes a show.
Yeah, we got the draft coming up in Wisconsin. I'm pretty sure I'll pop in during that time.
Well, yeah, but in theory, we'll all be there. So we'll have to figure out how to do more than 10 minutes of it.
Right.
I feel like there's this whole hour time slot that would be required to still be filled.
Right.
But since we are at the halfway point, we might as well talk about BetUS. If you use the QR code on the screen, get up to 3 of your first deposits at 125%, 10% bet guarantee. If you happen to lose, obviously this is a huge betting week for NFL. And if you have not joined a sports book, you should join ours and bet right alongside us here on Coast to Coast. And of course, if you are in the Pacific Northwest, you can use this QR code on the screen as well. Free 5-day pass at any of the True Fusion gyms, whether it's Bellevue, Ballard, University Village, Pilates boot camp, yoga, and more. Find your edge. True Fusion Gym. And then on a side note, if you are here in the Pacific Northwest as well, if you are a arena football fan, the Wolfpack season tickets are on sale, 10% off if you use the promo code Wolfpack. So there you go. Yeah. So kind of looking forward for, arena to start. Should be covering rugby this year as well. So that'll be fun.
Rugby's pretty fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and we have a good rugby team here. It's they've been they're 2-time champs. They were in the championship game last year as well, and came up a little short at the end of the game. But yeah, we have a very competitive pro rugby team. So
yeah, I'm actually waiting for the UFL. I think the UFL this year is going to be a lot more competitive than what it was last year.
Yeah, I was really hoping the UFL was going to get they were going to expand because they were talking about adding 2 more teams back, and it doesn't look like that happened.
No, they're planning on 2026 is when they plan to expand it.
Yeah, so they originally were talking about 2 of them coming back this year and then 2 more coming back in 26.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's just a year behind schedule, but I would imagine some of that is just funding.
Yeah,
right?
it's looking like Seattle will get their team back in 2026.
Yep.
And New Orleans
was still supposed to happen.
Yeah,
So
New Orleans will be getting a team in 2026.
Yeah, so those 2 were already kind of slated for 26. There was supposed to be 2 more kind of regionally based ones that were going to come back this year.
So the other 2 that have, because a couple teams pulled out, so the other 2 cities now are going to be getting added in 2027. One being either San Diego or Oakland, because obviously San Diego lost the Chargers, Oakland lost the Raiders, so they want to put football in one of those 2 markets, similar to kind of the Battlehawks. Where
it should be in both, right? If they're going to add 2 teams.
It should be, but it won't be just because they don't want to put 2 teams in California, because the other market that they're looking at now is Chicago. that's the one that makes the most sense, just because you have the St. Louis Battlehawks and you have the Michigan Panthers, but you don't have that team kind of right in the middle of them.
Sure.
You have them and then Detroit or Michigan, so they're looking at Chicago or Minneapolis as that final team in 2027.
No, the only reason I was thinking that having one San Diego and Oakland is then all of a sudden you can get some regional play on the West Coast. So
Yep.
there's a little bit less travel demand, right? Because, I mean, that's one of the biggest things with these leagues where they struggle so much is just how much it costs to get everywhere. And
Yep.
I understand that The Rock has a ton of money and Fox Sports obviously has a ton of money, but they're also not like bad businessmen, right? So they're going to be looking at, okay, we want to expand to the West Coast. If you only have Seattle, that's a ton of travel.
Yeah, and they're also looking at to go with San Diego, Oakland. They're looking at Portland as an option
Portland would be good.
because Portland does not have football. Obviously, they have soccer, they have the Trailblazers, and that's it. They don't have another.
Portland would be a great spot to have, especially something like that, right? Because it allows you to test the market for football there,
Yep.
right? You can kind of see are they a football town or not? Because you're not looking to fill a 40 to 60,000, seat stadium. You're looking to fill a, 18,000 or, type of stadium.
Yeah,
18,
Tulsa,
20 maybe.
Tulsa's another market they're looking at just because they would like Oklahoma City to have another sports team in the Oklahoma market. So they're looking at Tulsa as a potential destination. Omaha, Nebraska, which I don't think happens.
Yeah, I doubt that one.
Orlando, Florida, even though the last UFL team they had in Orlando didn't draw well just because the team sucked, but Orlando's always been one of those markets that has typically done well with spring football because you had the Orlando Apollos back in the AAF, you had the Orlando Guardians and the XFL, then they transferred over to the UFL, so they've had one.
Yep.
Obviously, Canton, Ohio is being a market just because the UFL championship game is played in Canton, Ohio, so you have the connection there. And Louisville's also a market, which I think would be good to put a spring football team in for Louisville, because then you have that Louisville-Memphis rivalry where you can get a lot of fans from both aspects going across.
No, and I could see like Salt Lake getting
Bring
one.
the Stallions back.
Yeah, like I could see that.
And that's the one thing, like, is as good as the XFL has been since they came back, as good as the UFL has been. When you look at how the AAF, if you remember the AAF when it started.
Oh, I liked what they were trying to do. They were just so underfunded.
Yeah, but when you look at how the AAF did like the markets, it made a ton of sense. Like you had the San Diego Fleet. Well, obviously San Diego was a big NFL market. They lost their team. You gave them a team, and then you gave Salt Lake Stallions. That's kind of the Rocky Mountains, Denver, kind of that area that has a team. Arizona, which I didn't understand why they had a team. But then you had the San Antonio Commanders. San Antonio has always been one of those towns that has been discussing NFL expansion. You gave them that team, and now you have the Brahma, so that worked. You had the Orlando team there, and then you had other teams out east like Birmingham, which Birmingham Stallions ended up staying in the UFL. So like the markets they used for the AAF were great test markets, and a lot of those markets prove that they can sustain a spring football team, so they kept the market there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there are some spots that make sense, especially in a little bit smaller markets where you're looking at Portland, right? Could they house spring football? Sure. Do I think they're a great fit for an NFL team? Probably not. But do I think they would? Portland to me feels like they would be like LA when it comes to fans. Like when they're good, they'd be fine. When they're bad, they wouldn't show up.
Portland, to me, I don't think needs hockey or needs football per se. I think they need hockey, just because I think they would draw well like the Kraken. But the other thing that I think Portland does need is baseball. Seattle needs another team up in that corner of the country to kind of rival with.
They don't need another team to lose to. Shut up.
You wouldn't lose to them the first couple of years because they'd be so bad, but at least you'd have that closer team in terms of.
See, I disagree. I mean, no. So the rivalry end of it, of course.
Like who's Seattle's rival right now for the most part?
I mean, it would be Houston, I guess.
And look how far that is.
It'd be in division.
Yeah, like the Vegas A's. I mean, Sacramento's now the closest rival to Seattle just because they went up north on the coast or up north in California a little bit, but even that's too far of a travel. Like Portland and Seattle for baseball, I think would be good.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd get the short travel, right? Like if the Mariners are playing in Portland, a lot of people would go down to watch the game, and vice versa, right? Like if Portland was playing in Seattle, a lot of people drive up. It's only a 3.5 hour drive, so it's not the end of the world if somebody wanted to do an away game but wanted to just drive there. So no, I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, the Mariners have been bad long enough. I don't know if they have any actual rivals. Right, because the idea behind a rival is you have to win sometimes. Like,
well, that's the Chicago Bears and the Packers, which is still considered a rivalry, even though the Packers.
I mean, that hasn't been a rivalry in 20 years, right? So, yeah, it's and it's frustrating again as a Mariners fan because our off season we do nothing, right? Our GM is like, oh yeah, we don't really have any holes, which is hilarious because any team that misses the playoffs obviously has some holes, and then went on to say, oh yeah, we're looking at maybe a first baseman, a second baseman, and a shortstop. And I'm like, I feel like that's a lot of holes,
Right?
especially an entire infield. Essentially, that doesn't inspire confidence. Good thing our roster's set, and we didn't do anything. So, if we're looking at what's going to come this next year, we had 85 wins and missed the playoffs by 1 or 2 games. So we did nothing, which means we're probably going to get worse. So we're looking at like 82 games and missing the playoffs yet again. I mean, realistically,
yeah, I guess.
I mean that's about what I see happening there. So so it's just back to this.
Sure.
This is your life as a Mariner fan. It endured this team for years.
So I just found a video on YouTube, and by the year 2036, if anyone's alive that long, they plan to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You realize that's only like
You do realize with all the way our country acts and the way all these other country acts, there's no guarantee that this country's around in 10 years because we might just all kill each other off. But the plan is,
I still have residency down in Mexico then.
yeah, the plan for the UFL is to have about 24 teams.
Yeah, like that would be good. That would be good.
It shows like Seattle, Portland, a team in the San Francisco area, San Diego, Vegas getting their team back, Salt Lake City, Denver.
Yeah, I mean, they need to give the teams back that had good teams. Like the fact that they got rid of Seattle anyway was wild, considering they were a top 4 team in the league anyway, right? They were in the playoffs. They were one of the best attended games.
Yep.
So when they're like, oh yeah, Seattle's out, it's like, how expensive is the travel to get rid of one of your better teams?
Well, it's not only that too. Like I know, the main goal for the UFL, and they gave them a ton of credit. They wanted to get out of the NFL size stadiums and go kind of more to like soccer stadiums and college stadiums. Because when you
you want it to look full.
When you have 15,000 people in like a 25,000 seat stadium, it actually looks semi-full as opposed to putting 15,000 people in a 70,000 seat stadium, which Seattle is averaging 28,000 per game, which I mean, it still looks empty, but it's still at least 50% capacity. And if they wanted to do what they do for soccer, they could just close off the upper bowl. And
I think they actually did do
that.
that.
Now you're looking at 28,000 people in the 35,000 seat section, so it's looking a lot full. The only team that actually makes their stadium look full is the Battlehawks, and the Battlehawks draw 35,000 in a 65,000 seat stadium. But the way they do the lights in that stadium, it looks like you're cramming 35,000 people into like a 40,000 seat stadium.
I didn't even hear about this, Chris. Don't even know.
Yeah, that happened.
So what happened?
I'm pulling it up right now because I did see that yesterday because they had a mugshot of this guy standing next to Michael Jordan. I'm like, who the heck is that? And they just said Michael Jordan's son arrested. I'm like, for what?
Hmm.
He has like 2 or 3 felony charges, I think.
Oh, okay. Hey, go big or go home, right?
Right. So Marcus Jordan, son of Michael Jordan, has been arrested in Central Florida for DUI and multiple cocaine drug charges.
Oh, okay. Just Charlie Sheening it up. I like it.
So he's facing a DUI charge with property damage for driving through residential stuff. He's facing a resisting an officer charge, possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana, and other drug-related charges.
Amazing. Okay. Well,
It's not going to affect Michael Jordan's legacy at all because that ain't his problem. His son
no,
is a
it doesn't change anything for Michael.
Son's a 34-year-old grown-ass man. If that's what he does, then that's on him.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And of course, hearing about how Michael Jordan is, it's not like he's probably giving his kid all that much money, right? So Jordan is 100% like, go get that yourself. So
I did it myself. You can do it yourself.
That's exactly right. So yeah, no, that's funny. It won't affect Jordan's legacy in any way. But
I mean, his brand is so big on its own that even if his son were to do something stupid like murder somebody or do something else, like the Michael Jordan brand is so big that honestly, if his son did do something stupid like that, it would probably become bigger.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, anything is good, right? Like they'd come out with a prison bar edition Jordans, like
Michael Jordan, because you have those easy slides that they have now for sandals that look like prison shoes as it is.
Yeah,
they would come out with a Michael Jordan prison shoe. Put the
absolutely.
Jordan logo on it right in the middle of those orange sandals and let her go, and then they'd be sold for $200 a piece.
Exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Nothing can touch Jordan at this point, unless he was the one to go murder somebody. And even then, does Nike stop making the shoe? Probably not.
No, people would treat it like there's blood in the shoe. Then they'd probably buy it even more.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's like, oh, I want to buy this just in case it's not around in a couple of years.
I didn't see that either, that Tiger Woods lost his mom. That's too bad. Yeah. No, I mean, it's always kind of a slow sports news week when you're headed towards the Super Bowl because none of the other sports are really doing anything yet, right?
Well,
like
hockey's about to do something fun.
No, I mean, they're getting there. It doesn't for another week or so.
Well, hockey has that nations tournament starting.
Oh, I thought it started next week.
It starts on Monday the 10th.
Yeah. So
that's a couple days away, but like that's something that.
No, but yeah, it's after the Super Bowl. I was going to say, like everything that's about to happen happens after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they have to wait because they're not going to take the. It's what Pags and I talked about when you were in at the Senior Bowl. Like people were saying like how this is going to be the least watched Super Bowl in like all time. I said I disagree because you have to take into account the day that Super Bowl Sunday happens. There's a reason why all college basketball games start at 11 in the morning and are done by 3. There's a reason why no NBA games are played after 2 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday. There's a reason why no hockey is played after 2 o'clock on Sunday. There's a reason why no NASCAR or anything goes on. It's because they literally leave Super Bowl Sunday specifically for the NFL. They don't want any conflict.
Nobody's trying to break in on one of the most watched sporting events in the world.
Well, because the NBA and NHL have a hard enough time like getting viewership as it is.
Exactly.
You put an NHL game at 5 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday. The only people that might be watching that game are people that are fans of the team playing, and even then, they're probably not watching it like they typically would. Like the ratings would suck. So
the ratings would be horrendous. Like people would pop over during like a commercial break, right?
For
Because there's
10
plenty of
seconds.
sports fans that don't care about Super Bowl commercials. So
Well,
they'd be
I
like,
love the commercials.
no, I'm sure, but there's a lot of people that don't like. I mean, for me, like that's when I'm going to get more food and, or another beer or something as soon as one of those commercials come on, because I don't care. Like, like if one is particularly funny, someone's going to send it to me sometime during the week anyway. They're going to be like, "Hey, did you see this commercial? Here it is," and then I'm still going to see it. So, I don't really care about them in real time. But
Did you hear how
oddly
much
enough,
it
when I watch
costs?
football, I watch to watch football. It's weird.
Did you hear how much it cost this year to do a Super Bowl commercial?
I mean, it's been over $1 million for a 30-second spot for years. So, I mean, I would imagine it's probably every bit of $5 million for a 30-second spot now.
$7.46
there we go.
million dollars for a 30-second spot.
Yeah. No, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, again, it's one of the most televised sporting events in the world. So, like, if you're doing traditional advertising, I mean, if you got the money, that is a solid time to do it, especially because there are a fair amount of people that tune in specifically for the Super Bowl commercials. Because let's be honest, Budweiser was really who started the hilarious Super Bowl.
The Clydesdales.
Clydesdale. Well, yeah, but I mean, they started
The
making
Bullfrogs.
It was the frogs, right? Like it was Bud. So I mean, it was Budweiser that really got that rolling, and then everybody started kind of following suit, making funny, weird Super Bowl commercials, and so it always came down to like them and Doritos, and it always ended up with just a bunch of hilarious commercials, and then all of a sudden you started seeing that price go way up.
And then you have like obviously the Doritos commercials have always been big.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
like Budweiser, Doritos, like Frito-Lay in general, right?
Yeah.
Pepsi, they always had like hilarious ones. So I mean, it's people tune in specifically for it. That and the halftime show, right? Like the performers have been bigger and bigger through the years. So I mean, it's I don't know. You get a lot of viewers that aren't necessarily watching football. But for me, I watch to watch football because I feel like it's a football game, and that's the part that is important. It's kind of like when you're ordering food somewhere and you're like, gee, I wonder at this pizza place if the wings are good. It's like, probably not. It's a pizza place, right? So I feel like if you're watching football, you should probably be tuning in to, I don't know, watch that. Chris is not a fan of the halftime show this year.
Oh, I'm definitely a fan of it because I want to see if he does what he's not supposed to do.
What's that?
So one of the songs he has is basically a P. Diddy track where he's completely dissing P. Diddy and anybody that's been involved with all the stuff that P. Diddy has done. And the NFL has specifically told him that he is not allowed to sing that song or his halftime show is getting cut. Like, as in they will not show it on TV.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm waiting to see if
turn your radio down a little bit.
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So I'm waiting to see if he does that.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does that, I guarantee it's going to be the last song that he does, because at that point, what's the point of cutting it when it's going to be done in like a minute anyways?
I mean, that's when you would do it. So,
knowing how Kendrick Lamar is, though, he might try to do it right away, right out the chute.
Yeah, I can't imagine you would do that. Like that would. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would be interesting, I guess, because then you'd be watching them scramble to try and figure out what they're going to do for the halftime show.
That's kind of why I'm hoping he comes right out the chute swinging with it, because that is literally the song that he is most known for right now.
No, I mean that's fair. That's fair. It would only be weird in the stadium, because on TV they would just go to the broadcast. Like they would just be like, "Hey, we pay you guys millions of dollars a year to talk about sports. Guess what you're going to do for the next 20 minutes?" But the people in the stadium,
pizza.
Yeah, in the stadium though, I think it'd be a very weird situation.
I just hope that next year's rumored performer actually gets it, because I think that might be one of the better halftime shows in a long time.
Who's that?
Jelly Roll.
Oh, that'd be cool. I can get into that.
I really hope that he ends up getting it, because then you can have guys like Post Malone. You could have guys like Morgan Wallen and a lot of these guys that he does the collaborations with. He might just do like a full halftime set, just the collaborations with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to do him and Post Malone and a couple other guys. Call it the Face Tat Tour.
Yeah. He's going on tour with Eminem and Post Malone next year, so that's...
There you go. Man, that does get us to the top of the hour. If you've been watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us get our content to you. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, or on Roku. Other than that, we're going to get out of here and go play with my dog some more in the snow. So Take it easy, everybody. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Later.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar.